Welcome to Schmibblecast. My name is Aaron, and welcome to my blog. And welcome to the first audio cast for this blog. That's right. So not only are we putting up art, actual physical drawn art, and tableted art, if you want to call it that way, but I'm also putting up my voice art, so you can hear my voice, my sensual, majestic voice. So all the people of the world can go, ooh, who's that sexy man on the other side of that recording? Ooh, man. So, you know what my voice sounds like now. Now you can accompany that to the kind of art I make for my blog. So welcome, everybody. And what I want to get into is the first topic in a long list of topics I'd like to bring up in animation. But one of the biggest ones to start off with, one that has a lot of controversy, one that has a lot of issues along it, is one called anime. Now, we all know anime, of course. Anybody in the 90s grew up with anime. We love anime. We've even late 80s grew up with anime. So, we caught the tail... We didn't catch the tail end, but we were kind of one of the first generations to really catch the wave of anime when it was beginning to get popular, and now it's at a full-time fucking high. It is monopolized into an empire in Japan, and it has infected our little minds, our little Western minds. They're turning us into perverts. They're turning us into little freaks. They're turning us into little vile schoolgirl stalkers. Ooh, oh no, lock the doors, kids. Pedophilia will run loose on the streets. Oh no, don't kill me, please. I'm only 12 years old. Ha ha ha, anime made me do this. So, anyway, we'll get to that part of anime's controversy in a little while. But the first part I want to get into is its legitimacy in the animation industry. Now, I'm a student at school. I'm at my second year in Concordia University under film animation, and it's a good school, Concordia University. It's a good place to learn how to be an independent filmmaker, a good place to be an independent animator, which for me, wanting to learn industry standards is kind of me, but whatever. It doesn't matter where I learn how to animate. I'll take work where I can get it once I graduate. Anyway, or even an internship during school. I don't mind that. But I'm not gonna put a classifieds ad on this audiocast. No. So, we'll work for anything. Anime. Bring this up to a teacher sometime. Bring up anime to any teacher who's worked all the way through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Ask them about it. Ask them about anime. You'll get a myriad of interesting points to be made about it. Most of them negative, though. Most of them are pretty negative. You'll admit, oftentimes anime is perceived to be very negative in the animation industry, mainly because its foundational structure skills are not very well planned, well timed. Oftentimes, they work from the comics, and they basically copy scenes from the comics, like straightforward from it, which makes it, which I guess, depending on the artistry, can look either tacky or really tacky, I guess. And oftentimes they're not properly proportionate. There's very limited animation. Not like how UPA limited animation. That was very well done. But they criticize the amount of limited animation they use. And I guess to an extent that's true. You look at a lot of generic studios who are able to churn out all these anime shows, like a one season series every fiscal quarter or something, or however long a season takes to do, like a year, basically. And so they're always churning out. But the merit I find to that, being able to limit the amount of production, is at least the one pro of that, you have to admit, is that they can mass manufacture. They can generate a lot of content. They can do it. And that's why anime is very contentious. It's very content-based. Like, look at how many series are being made. Look at how many shows are being made and coming out in Japan. I mean, it's not like here where we rely on the same franchises or comic books that we've loved for 30 years to do it. Like, oh, we'll only watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, My Little Pony, or, I don't know, The Avengers, and that's it. Whereas in Japan, sure, a lot of the settings and the themes and the characters will always be somewhat similar, especially with romantic tendencies and stuff like that. But the thing that always is interesting to me is the fact that it is a very contentious industry, that there's so much being made, that they are generating a lot of things, not just general projects, but ideas, stories. They're always creating stories. And, a lot of them based in, general life, a lot of them with absurdities all over the place, but you can't discredit everything that's being churned out. And there are good animation studios out there amongst the entire industry in Japan. You can't discredit that. And I'm sure to an extent, a lot of teachers and a lot of people will acknowledge at least those studios. A few of them I can recommend, which are of high quality, not only in animation, but in storytelling, would be Studio 4 Degrees Celsius, Studio Ghibli. Of course, we all know Hayao Miyazaki for his great works, but, let's keep him out of that, because he's a common knowledge. Everybody knows that name, so they'll go, oh yeah, that guy. Let's go with Satoshi Kon, the great late Satoshi Kon. He died too young, I think, in my mind. What was he, like 60? Fuck, the guy died. Maybe he was 40, I forget. But he had some really great fucking movies. He became a Millennium Actress, Paprika, Tokyo Godfathers. Oh man, I have an artgasm or an anime or a filmgasm when I watch those movies. Oh my god, the stories are so fucking good. Especially Millennium Actress. Oh, ladies, men alike, if you want to see a good romance story, watch the fucking Millennium Actress. Oh, it is such a powerful story. I can't even... Anyway, another good studio would be Production IG and Gainax, who often partner up and do a lot of sister projects with each other. Production IG, they're really good, like really high standard, but you get the feeling that they're working from too high a level, that it makes it look almost too realistic, a lot of the films. Even their recent one, A Letter to Momo, which is a little more cartoony compared to most of what they made, like Ghost in the Shell, and, Ghost in the Shell 2, and... well, some people don't like 2, so... also, what was the other one? Jinro, they did that one. Oh, fuck, man. And Madhouse. Oh! Madhouse. If you ever want to be immersed into anime, if you know nothing about anime, if you have a shred or clue about anime, I will recommend to you right here, right now, Madhouse. Don't go to any of these, generic, oh, I'm a schoolgirl, woe is me kind of stories. Or, I'm a normal boy who just wants to get laid and ends up going out with a weird alien girl from outer space. No, I'm talking, you want to see some real good shit? Oh, fucking Madhouse. Madhouse. Go for Madhouse. One, their animation's stellar. 2, the stories are dynamic and created in the studio. So these are people who create stuff within the studio. They don't just pick up a manga that's get popular off the street and be like, oh, we want to raise our ratings and popularity as a studio so that we can work on bigger projects, so we'll take up this manga and that manga. No, they create their own stories. They pitch it, they write it out. It's creator-based within the studio. That, to me, is amazing that anyone still does that. And not only that, but they diversify their styles, and they diversify the amount of potential and techniques that they can use. Oh my god. All you have to do is look at... Oh, did they do Cat Soup? Or was that Studio 4 Degrees? No, Cat Soup was Studio 4 Degrees. All you have to do with Madhouse is look at Redline. What other ones? The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. Oh, God. Cardcaptor Sakura. They did Cardcaptor Sakura. That was one of their first series. They also did... Oh, no, they didn't do that. Studio 4 Degrees did Mind Game, but Madhouse did a couple... I think they did a couple of Animatrix shorts. You should check this... Oh, you gotta check Madhouse out. I can't even explain it properly. Go see Madhouse. Look up that studio. It's incredible. Oh, I could go on for 30 minutes about it. And Manglobe. Manglobe is another one. They do a lot of really good stuff too, like Samurai Champloo and Michiko to Hachin, which it's basically like one of those. I don't even know how to talk it. It's like one of those. It's like a snuff series. It's like a Spanish snuff series. Girl gets out of jail. Go find my. I need to go find my baby so I can find my baby father and stuff like that. And go. Oh, but it's a fun show. I can't explain it. Yeah, I would recommend those ones. I won't recommend Kyoto Animation. I won't. It's for one reason. One reason only. It feels too much like the Japanese equivalent of Disney. That's the thing I have a problem with it. Or as it's known in short, KyoAni. And KyoAni has really good quality animation. I won't deny that. They have really good art staff on that thing, but they always hire the best art staffs to do the most stale fucking projects with like the highest production budget behind it, simply because they set up these stories not really for any real particular reason, but because they can generate some CDs, some albums, anything that can franchise really well. They back up on, and they give high production values to, or huge like sums of budgets to. Because they know, this is your ass if you don't get this thing off the ground, and if it doesn't, if by the end of the first season there aren't action figures and CDs and stuff like that, we won't fucking go through with it. So, at least that's my assumption. So, and you can tell from a lot of the shit they put out, like K-On!, which, honestly, that show... oh, there's like no plot to that fucking show. There's none. All 4 girls are basically just like these moronic teenage girls who are just like, let's form a band. Okay, now we're getting popular. Oh, we may not be good on stage. Oh, you know what? They like this anyway. Okay. Like, they never have a shitty show. They never say like, oh no, is she not gonna make it to the show? Is she gonna suck? No, oh god. There's no plot. There's none at all. So... Oh, they make some stale shit at Kyoto Animation. Although, granted, they did do Haruhi, which is hit and miss to me. So those are my... Sorry, that took a long time to get through. But those are my recommendations for film studios. Those are good animation studios. Gainax, Madhouse, those are the top 2. Studio 4 Degrees, next one down.
Kyoto Ani, kawaii desu yo. Nani shiteru no? Nani shiteru no?
Anyway. Now you can tell why the blog is called Schmibblecast. Anyway. So, what else we got? We got anime. We covered the first part, which was the legitimacy of the art, of the qualification of the art of anime. Now we're going to go into the controversies of anime. There's a lot of them, aren't there? Man, especially how they try to... I can't even begin to put my finger on it. I guess... Well, I'm going to get to the sex part in a little while later. I'm gonna hold off on that for just a little longer. But I'm gonna first get into a lot of the censorship and westernization of a lot of shows that were shipped over here during a very sensitive time when we were growing up. Because now you look at anime coming out and nobody gives a shit anymore. The production companies here and distributors here in North America will allow subtitling and they'll keep the names of a lot of the characters and the settings and the scenarios, and they'll often try to translate and subtitle and dub in the nuances and translate the nuances of Japanese culture over here. It's not like, and I find that great now, because it's not like when we were growing up in the 1990s, when And I know there's still some shows like that every now and then. They have to do it, but it was really bad when we were growing up, because it was like a very sensitive time for anime to really be popular. And so what they would do oftentimes with many series coming out is they would try to figure out which ones would be familiarized. This is my guess. I'm guessing the shows we used to get were ones where the themes and the ideas were concise enough and distinctive enough that even a Western audience could pick up on it. So, Sailor Moon, that's easy. A girl transforms into a magic girl and, defeats evil. That's pretty straightforward. It's not like a full-on Japana Jana Pana Pana show where it's like all ting tong do 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 kawaii desu bu 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 do ramen noodle udon, and nobody understands what any of the context means, because a lot of times in Japanese, a lot of shows incorporate a lot of Japanese Japanese social structures, and a lot of those nuances in those structures can't be translated very well over to a Western audience. But now, with the anime audience being really broad and adamant about the culture and having a good sense of the culture, that's not as much of a problem now. But back then, back in the 90s, 80s, there was no trust in the audience, basically. And so what they would do is they would change almost everything around the setting of the story. So the story was the same, but, instead of Satoshi in Pokemon, that's the name, in Pokemon, the guy's name was Satoshi, that name would never, go through. That wouldn't get greenlit here. No way. No one would, apparently their thought was no one would watch a show about a guy named Satoshi in North America. So they had to change his name to Ash. And they changed Shigeru, who is the name of his rival, to Gary. And so now Ash and Gary, that's pretty straightforward, Ash and Gary. Cool. I can fall behind that. Ash and Gary, awesome. Satoshi and Shigeru? What is this shit? What the fuck? I don't want to listen to Satoshi and Shigeru go akabaka. So, Ash and Gary, very white, very northern, very western, wah, awesome. Now I can understand it. But there was a lot of nuances in that show too, in Pokemon, that didn't translate well in the first few seasons, and so they had to edit and cut a lot of that show, and a lot of and the one thing people remember constantly about from anime back then, not just Pokemon and Digimon, all that stuff where they got different names, but the one that everybody remembers being churning around very quickly was the show Sailor Moon. People went apeshit when they delved themselves into the actual show, because a lot of people I knew would watch the original Sailor Moon, look at it and go, oh man, this is so cool, everything's great. Watch the Japanese version and go, wait, but those two characters are different genders. What the fuck? Malachite's... Was that her name? No, Queen Beryl. I think Malachite was the man, woman, transgender thingy. But Queen Beryl's henchmen, those two people in suits, their genders were switched around. Dude, I didn't know what the fuck to look at. And I was a kid. I was looking at the man going that's a woman. There's no way. There is no goddamn way that that's a woman. That's a man. That's a woman. And that's a man. That woman, that's a fucking man. Oh, that made no sense. But, what else was there? It was, oh, man. I think it was Sailor Saturn? Sailor Uranus? I think they were cousins? Or they were sisters? Oh, no. I think they were just two sisters or two women who really liked each other, and they couldn't allow a lesbian love like that to be on. There was huge lesbian undertones to that relationship with those characters, and so what they would do, I remember this. They told us they had to change the relationship between the characters in the English version, And they ended up being, what was it, sisters or cousins? Cousins, that's what it was. It was supposed to be cousins. Oh, that makes the relationship so much worse. Oh my god. Oh, fuck. What were they thinking? Oh, but nowadays, if you watch shows like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Metabots, if you watch stuff like that, they keep the names. They don't, or Metabots not as much, but Yu-Gi-Oh! And a lot of modern anime coming out, they don't mind. They don't deal with that stuff. And that's because the popularity of anime has increased since. And, the audience has broadened and people have garnered more of an interest because for so many years, so many people showed a greater interest outside of what was just being fed to them by Western markets. So, hey, most people were smart enough to figure out, well, Pokemon's great, Sailor Moon's great, all these shows are great. But I know they're trying to sell me shit through this show. Pokemon and Digimon especially. Those shows are not even like shows with plot. You don't give a shit about that show. No one gives a shit about Pokemon. It still airs, and we know Ash is gonna win most of the time, except for the odd chance to keep people going like, oh no, he didn't make it. But honestly, they have to keep generating that series. Why? Because they leave so much of that show to the imagination. Don't they? Think about it. The franchise is such a perfect system. It's such a perfect story. It's not even a story, but it's a perfect plot. Oh my god. It's so perfect. You could franchise forever on this thing. You could virtually make money for the next 50 years off this franchise. No shit. Here's why. Because the whole goal of the game, which is also tied with the story, is to catch and collect every Pokemon in the world. But what they don't tell you about the world is, you don't know how much of the world there is in Pokemon. You just don't know. They're always adding a new region. Regions, not even countries for fuck's sake. Regions. So they're hitting parts of a huge world that is yet to become. And how long is this going to go on for? How much of the world are we going to see? How much of, the Poke Earth, as it's known as, are we going to see? And how many Pokemon are there really? Well, that depends on how much money they make in the future, and how desperately and how avidly people invest in this. Like, if they can keep buying into it, they will keep churning it out. They will keep generating. Because as long as people are interested in it, there's no way they're going to stop. No way they're going to stop. You kidding me? Dude, fucking Sesame Street has been on for 20, 30 years now? Man, that show is still going. Thousands of episodes. A lot of them kind of repeating, quite honestly, in context. Because I think you can only say so much to kids. I think. And there's only so many ways you can illustrate ideas to kids. Or maybe they're getting smart about it because children are different now than they were when we were growing up. God, compared to kids today, we're like fucking cavemen. Wow, I was still playing with a stick in the dirt, and these kids are now on Xbox when they're 5. What the fuck? That's weird. They're programming computers when they're 10. And they get one when they're 4. What? This is weird. But I digress. So a lot of the shows we grew up with were just franchises. Televised franchises. Oh, here's a Pokemon. Do you like that? Oh, we have a toy for it. Buy it. Or you want to have all these Pokemon for yourself? Here's the video game. Buy it. Or stuff like that. Oh, did you know there's a comic? Ooh. And they push this shit on us. And, and they'd always put out those special events so you could get special Pokemon like Mew and now Genesect and all that shit. And I'm gonna get Genesect for White too. Woohoo! So think about that, for instance. And so a lot of the anime audience went, yeah, so I know there's this much, but is there more? And people ended up getting bootlegs and finding different shows like, whoa, this exists! Like finding Evangelion and Ninja Scroll and like fucking Millennium Actress and finding all that stuff and like bringing it home and going, look, look at it! And people go, whoa, I knew of Pokemon, I knew of Gundam Wing, I knew of Escaflowne, but I didn't know of this. And I'm like, yeah, did you know they had Ghost in the fucking Shell? I'm like, what? And then suddenly, studios picked up on, wait, all these people are watching more anime lately. What the fuck? Should we get more of this stuff? Well, let's see what we get. And they go back, find all this stuff, bring it over, realize there's a market for it in the Western audience. No one ever suspected that. And so now, after years and years of people being more invested in the shows and growing with the culture and the times and the fan culture that grows from it, now it's something completely different. It's completely different from like 20 years ago when I was around. Fuck, it was so different. Now the culture's booming, it's boasting. Kids grew up with anime here. Kids grow up with that stuff here. It's unbelievable. And they don't just grow up with like, oh, that's Charlie, whose real name in Japan is Ikamoto. Like, they grow up with Ikamoto. I'm like, what? Like, that kid grows up with wow! And granted, there are going to be, generic shows that are like, oh, we have to make it familiar to kids. But some kids will grow up at like 8 or 10 years old with like fully Japanese anime shows that are dubbed. Like, what? No way! Now there's whole dubbing studios dedicated to the place. People are setting up, like, God, what's the biggest one right now that I can think of? Funimation. Funimation's one of the big ones. And I'm glad that studio has survived. I am so glad that company has survived. And I really, I'll say this much. I love Funimation. I do. I trust them completely. As a Western distributor, I really trust them. Mainly because they do everything right, in my mind. In terms of marketing, in terms of advertising, in terms of promotion and production, and publicism, they do everything right, in my mind. Look at what they do on YouTube. They put a lot of series, not just like, oh, here's a sneak peek here and there, full fucking episodes and full fucking seasons up on YouTube. They do it. I watched all of Soul Eater and I watched all of Squid Princess, Kurage Hime, or Jellyfish Princess, sorry, on the Funimation channel at YouTube. They got thousands of videos, thousands of episodes of series. You can go on and watch huge amounts. And, there's some controversy in that, like in studios and production companies, like, should we do that? Should we give away all our episodes? Because maybe they won't want to buy the DVDs if that's the case. Well, here's the thing people don't understand, and what Funimation obviously understands, is that real fans know there's more to the show than just what they're watching. And if they really want to see more, and besides, they want a copy of it in high quality. They know what they're getting on TV, on the YouTube, or on their YouTube TVs, on TVs now, is not really the best quality. Like, it's good. Like, you can tell what everything is. It's not meant to be extremely like blurry and shitty, but it's, they know they can get a better quality video copy from the DVD or the Blu-ray when they buy it. So, besides, either way, they're just gonna torrent that shit. So, I've done that a couple of times. Princess Tutu via torrent. Woo! Did I admit to watching that show? I don't know. But what else can I say about the Funimation? Funimation does everything right in my mind. They publicize. They have pop-up ads everywhere promoting new DVDs that come out and Blu-rays, like, oh, get this new series that's out. Like, they still generate series out, and they also respect and understand that most of the people who are watching their shows are people who have varying points of view on how they want to on the kind of experience they want to watch anime in. Some of them don't want their shows dubbed. Some of them don't want their shows subtitled. So they have varying versions. Like they'll have like a dubbed version. Sometimes, depending on the show, they'll have dubbed and subbed versions, which is awesome in my mind. The fact, and they get really good translation staff to come in and be like, "Here, translate all this. Come on, do it." And, fucking amazing. They do so well. And the dubbing, let's get into dubbing. I don't like dubbing. Okay, I have a problem with dubbing. I don't think it adds to the animation. It doesn't match up with it. I'll say that much. It doesn't match up with and I know I say nuances, but subtleties in the way the acting can be conveyed in the original Japanese. You know, most people don't like watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in French or Simpsons in Spanish because, you know, most times they watch that just to get like a laugh out of it, like, oh, this is what Homer sounds like in Spanish, like, oh, si me muy caliente, do, you know, like, and they laugh about that stuff. But when it comes to Funimation, they dub, they subtitle, and their dubbing production, I hate dubbing. I'll repeat that. I'll reiterate. I hate dubbing. I don't like dubbing. But Funimation does really good dubbing. They do amazing dubbing. Funimation did Eden of the East a while ago, a show I watched. I'm not going to explain it to you, and you don't have to know what it is. All I'm going to say to you about it is, I wish they had more episodes for that series. I really wish. They had a couple of movies after the initial 11 episodes, but fuck, it didn't go anywhere. The story didn't go anywhere. Anyway, sorry about that. They did that show, and I wondered, would the dub sound good? I'm not sure. Played it. It was great. It was really good. I thought there were some moments where I was like, they can't get that right. Understandable. But they did Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal FMA. And anybody who's seen the dub as well of Full Metal Alchemist knows they do pretty good. They do pretty well in that. Like, I like Alphonse. I love Edward's acting. He's good. I like that guy. There are some examples that, that waver sometimes in the anime world. Look at me. I'm, like, too fucking passionate about this. It's scary. And you wouldn't tell. You couldn't really tell I'm anime because of my style and how I draw. But I'm an anime fanatic. I used to draw a lot of anime when I was a kid, and these things always bug me. I never liked dubbing because oftentimes, especially other small studios, and I'll say this much. I hate to say this to you guys. I hate to say this to people like on YouTube, but please stop the fan dubbing. Stop it. Stop it. You're not giving justice to it. All you're doing is making that so that you and your friends can go, oh, look at what we did, and be able to go, oh, I'm so embarrassed, I shouldn't have recorded it that way, and stuff like that. It sucks. I'm a prick about this shit. Honestly, I hate to be a dick, and I know the anime community is just trying to get shows out there like, oh, no one's seen this show, let's get a dub out there so people can, understand what's going on in it. So, and I get it. It's understandable, but it fucking sucks. And you people go in with like the most half-assed attempt to do it. Why don't you just make an unabridged series, parody it, satirize it, and just be like, and stuff like that? Then it's funny. I think it's funny. Do like what Dragon Ball did. What those guys did with was it Team 4-Star? What they did with Dragon Ball? Do that. Like, that'd be fun to do. Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Unabridged. That'd be awesome. That'd be fucking amazing. Sorry. Dubbing. Fucking awesome. Anything else? Well, I think other than that. Okay. Now we hit the zinger. We hit the fucking... we hit the hardest, the most controversial, and the most difficult proponent of the anime industry. The sex. Oh, the sexual innuendo in that. The sexualization in the shows. Oh, it's so thick. In almost every show, you can cut. It's so thick you couldn't cut that with a butter knife. You couldn't cut that with a chainsaw. It's so thick. So rich in every show. Oh, man. Now I know how that sounded in the end. Don't worry, it's not like... but, but, oh, man. They over-sexualize tons of shows in the worst way possible. And granted, that's the first thing. That's one of the first things that anybody ever critiques about anime. Anytime I say, oh, I like anime, people are like, oh, I don't like anime. And I'm like, well, why don't you like anime? I want to know. And they're like, well, because it's all fucking 14, like, barely legal schoolgirls getting, like, showing panties and, like, guys sniffing them and stuff. And I'm like, oh, god damn it. And what's funny is, what I've noticed is, it's gotten the the subdued perversion, or the implied perversion in many of the shows have gotten so bad and have I guess they've capitalized on it. I guess you could say that. They have probably capitalized on the sexualization. It's kind of like the MTV here. Oh, we'll rake in the young audience by showing like a panty shot here or that. Or emphasize this part. Ooh, let's check that out. And it is very evident. They do capitalize on the sexual components of anime. I mean, think about this. How many anime series, whether they initially had this in the comic or not, or whether this was originally created or not, how many of these shows had at least one beach episode? Exactly. It's the same fucking thing. And you know that they're just selling you shit if they're putting in a beach episode. Because all that episode is meant to do is show what these girls would look like in bikinis, and how they might at some point barely show you like a little side boob, or a little like, oh, here's a little bit of my butt crack, or here's a little bit of, oh, is that a nip slip? Ooh, oh no. And then everybody in the audience is like, wow, I love this. Oh my god, boobies, boobies. Oh my god, she almost took her bikini top off. Oh no. Oh, look at that expression on her face. Oh, she's embarrassed. Oh, I love this. So you know that they're just preying off the audience by doing this. You can tell they're fucking, oh god. You would think some of the people on those shows are sex predators. You would think. But what's funny about it is, since that precedent has been set and established in the mindset of the audiences watching this, anything, no matter how legitimate or how artistically inclined a sexual scene or a nude scene is, it will be associated with that perversion. It doesn't matter. Like, honestly, I watched, what's the one I want to watch? Blue Gender, I think it is. The Satoshi Kon movie about, the girl who gets raped. And that looks very artistic. That looks like a very well done thing. And there's a reason why she's getting raped in that show. I've seen bits of the rape, and I know what you're gonna say. Oh, don't go into details. I'm not gonna go into details about it. Don't worry. I'm not gonna be like, oh, then she did this and like, ugh. I wouldn't do that. But I'm just gonna say, for that movie, there's a reason why that happens. It's not because, oh, look, there's boobies. Ooh, look, like, you want this, don't you, guys watching TV? They don't want that when you're watching a movie like that. That's terrifying when you watch those scenes. That's terrifying. That's not... It bugs me sometimes how people make generalizations like that. It does. I get pissed off when people generalize on these kind of issues. But I also find it kind of naive and a little, I think, should I say stupid? Should I say stupid, or is it just naive? Let's go with naive for now, but we'll qualify whether it's stupid later or not when we think about it. But I find it naive, let's just put it, when people say, oh, they're just, like, they're bad over there because they market that stuff to young kids. Or they market that stuff and they market that stuff to young kids, and I'm like, well... what the fuck do you think we do with our TV here? Do you forget that we do that too? I'm sorry to say, but there's a lot of standards in, especially Western TV, that did influence Japanese cinema as well. So you have to take into credit. Kind of. I mean, they went their own track. Japan went their own track. But I find it really funny that people will judge another for someone else for something they do as well. That's hypocritical, don't you find? It's completely fucking hypocritical. Like, oh, have you ever watched a lot of the music videos coming out? A lot of rap music videos? Have you ever seen a lot of the reality shows that are coming out that kids are watching now? Have you ever seen a lot of the high school, like, drama shows coming out on, like, MTV and Much Music? Fuck, man. If you watch that shit even for, like, 2 minutes, you would know that some sex scene, some beer bar scene, some stripper scene, anything is coming around the corner. That, and kids in like their teens watch that stuff, and we are sold Axe body sprays and Tag body sprays. We're sold a lot of stuff that will convince young kids that this will get them laid. So, and beer commercials, stuff like that. You think our television industry isn't that perverted compared to the Japanese? Get a fucking wake-up call. We're just as perverted as the Japanese, if not more. So I find that totally fucking hypocritical that someone would generalize another industry for how they do it. And look, here's the fucking thing. You're calling out their shit because all the kids are under 18? First off, it's a fucking cartoon, so it can go either way there. Yeah, it's still edgy and it's... ugh, I don't like that. But think of it this way as well. How many of those kids are legitimate on those shows as well over here? Those cats are like barely legal. 18, 19, 17 oftentimes. Fucking A, man. These are people who are brought on to do these performances. This is the reality of shit. This is the reality of things. You can't discredit one because of the other. You can't do that. You can't discredit one without first acknowledging the other. Or at least look to yourself first about this kind of thing. Like, why are you offended by this? Why are you looking at this and being so thrown back? Maybe there's a reason the panty shot's there. You never know. Of course, we all know it's there for a reason, but... And I will admit something to you. I'll admit something to everybody right now. This is not something to put on a blog, but I'll let you guys in on this. I was in that category when I first found it. When I first found anime for myself. Like, I'll be honest. I was 13. I was young. I was impressionable. Picked up a copy of Evangelion. Think it'd be a good series. I was curious of it. People talked about it. Went home and put it in. And I see there's a bath scene with one of the girls in it. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? What the... There's boobs in this. Like, I'm looking at legitimate boobs. But it's a cartoon. Is it natural for me to be attracted right now? And the reason was because it got to my hormones. I had hormones like crazy. Nothing happened in high school for me, I'll put it that way. So, what do you think a guy like me resorted to? I know you're gonna say your thing about it, like, oh, that's just gross. Look, there's all sorts of perversion, and trust me, most of the jocks who get a lot as well, they're just as perverted, man. They're like, yeah, man. Like, look at how perverted they get when they don't get it. You know, when they go out late at night to go to the bars and like, oh, you gotta give me, like, those guys get really aggressive about sex. You think that's not a form of perversion? Like, I want this, like, you think that's not out of desperation for sex? Like, I need this. So, look, I'm not saying I'm better than them, and I'm not saying what I did was necessarily natural when I was young. Although, look, the process was natural. I had hormones. All these kids have hormones. The different, and I grew out of it. But I understand from that perspective why kids are drawn into it. I understand from the perspective of someone who went through that experience of being like, oh, no girl likes me, so I'll just do this. I mean, look at the level of perversion that there is perversion. But that's only because, there are a lot of people who are desperate enough to want something like that. I mean, think about it. What about that guy who married his dating simulation game character. I'm not kidding! He dated a simulation girl. Like, he married a dating simulation character. No shit. He did. In Japan, there's wedding of it. Just look up, like, marry dating game on YouTube, and, like, you'll find this guy. There's a whole wedding figured out. There's, like, only 2 people in the recession. Standing in the pews, like, oh, my baby. And it's gotta be the parents. It's gotta be the parents. And the poor parents are just like, oh, no. They look like they're gonna be like, I gotta get out of here. I'm only here because do I love my son? I don't know if I love my son anymore. But, oh, man. But look, we're all young, we had hormones, and we all found different ways of coping with it. And hopefully what you do from that is you grow out of it. But there are some people who don't grow out of it, and we know this, and this is where another argument in the whole sexualization of anime comes from, where people will accuse anime of a lot of perversion, because a lot of the people who find the shows, or who watch the shows, are over 20 years of age, 20, 30 years old, and it's meant for like 14, 15-year-olds. Now, my question to you is this: how the fuck do you control that? How are you in control of that at all when you create this show? Look, if it's meant for kids, I guarantee you, these shows were intended and directed to younger audiences, for teenagers, for kids, all these things. They're meant for them. The fact that 30-year-olds find it is just pure coincidence and pure objective intention. They're, like, no studio ever went into that thinking, okay, we gotta make this, like, really sexy and stuff so that, not only 10-year-olds will get boners, but, like, 45-year-olds and 50-year-olds will watch the show and be like, oh, yeah, that's how a woman should be. They don't go into that. I'm sure they're just like, hey, this will get, like, the young kids excited, like, ooh, Will Booby here. Like, oh, man, because they're 13, that's what they want, man. It's still corrupt a little bit in how they make those decisions. Like, okay, will there be enough boob in it? Will there be enough objectification of women in the show? Will there be stuff like that? Like, will a woman, like, be pushed over and be, like, weak and helpless? Like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, Like, I bet they make marketing decisions like that based on how the show's going to be marketed to people. Like, oh, like that fucking, that... I gotta watch the rest of Madoka Machi Puella, blah, 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 whatever that show is. Because I watched the first 2 episodes, and everyone says give it a better chance. Give it a chance, because there's like more episodes in. And admittedly, I was judgmental at first, but those kind of girls are the girls I don't understand. I just don't understand what people find so attractive about them anymore. I don't understand it. I don't understand what the appeal is, because I look at those girls and I literally in my head imagine them as like real girls in my head. Because I look at girls, and the first assumption in my head is, okay, if that girl was a real-life character, how would I interact with that person? How would I involve myself with a character like that? And oftentimes you'll do that more, and I did this more just to protest the fact that I was, that I was seeing myself as a bit of a pervert at the time. So I'm like, okay, well, let's think about this rationally. I'm looking at the characters. If, I'm in the room with, say... who's a good character that people will know in the anime crowd? Let's say the main girl from Puella, Madoka, Magica, whatever her name is. I think it's Madoka. If I was in the same room as that girl and we got to talking, I would instantly find her utterly fucking annoying. I'd be like, oh, she's and if guys hung out with me and said like, hey man, check out that Madoka chick, I'm like, yeah, and they'd say, yeah, what do you think of her? I'm like, she's nice, I'd be like, yeah, she's nice, but she's kind of a little not there, you know what I mean? And people would be like, oh, that's just me, and I'm like, well, that's my opinion. It is my opinion. So no, but a lot of those characters are, and you can tell as well. The reason there's a lot of sexual confusion in a lot of anime and manga is because a lot of the manga being created is by men. it's mostly by men. And so the perspectives that women have, their personalities, everything, is completely different from that of if a woman wrote it. Like, I read Kurage Hime, which is Jellyfish Princess in Japanese, and it is a shoujo comic, and it's made by a woman. And it's really, really good. I like it. It was a good story, and it told an actual perspective of women, and the women were more approachable as characters. They were a lot more understandable in their reactions. Like, when a girl was embarrassed or like, oh no, I'm so embarrassed and blah blah blah, and like I'm shy and stuff, there was a legitimate reason why. I mean, they were insecure, they were nerdy, they were like, oh no, I'm just stuff like that, I'm awkward as a kid. But they're not doing it because they're like, oh, I have big boobs and I'm popular, so I'm like, I'm insecure, you know, like that. Have you seen the popular chicks here? Have you seen the popular chicks here? They're boasting about their popularity. Those little kids, they grow up with an ego. Like, those kids have body proportions to match their ego. It's just weird at a young age. And like,
Yeah, I'm so totally popular. Oh my god. No, 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 no. I'm so no. Oh my god, look at my boobies. Oh my god, I'm so sexy. Oh my god, I totally had sex with this guy. I'm like underage and he is, but he's like so cool. Anyway, I'm like, oh my god. Oh, let me get some bubblegum. Oh my god. I got some in my blonde hair and my boobies.
so girls are funny here. They're like active and energetic, and the popular girls in anime are like,
I'm so embarrassed. I'm too popular. I all this pressure. Oh my god. Oh no. Oh, it's me.
and it's so fucking annoying. It's annoying to listen to these characters. And my thinking is, no girl is like that. I know women, even Japanese women. No girl is like that. No girl is no girl is like these girls. And, fuck. Oh, To Love Ru? You ever heard of that show, audience, folks? Oh, man. You want to talk about really, really bad objectification to women? Go watch To Love Ru. Go watch that. Oh, my God. That is horrifying. It's just... Oh, it's more cartoony, I'll admit. But it's just in the way it's done. But it's still fucking... Like, all the girls are like... they're all like either... Fuck, they always make the girls in anime like insecure lymphomaniacs. Like, it's just... Look, nymphomaniacs, sorry. What the fuck is a lympho? No, they always make... From what I gather from shows like To Love Ru, which is a huge example of this, and a lot of like high school sexy shows, like School Days and stuff like that, a lot of the girls are made to be like insecure, shy nymphomaniacs. It's weird how the formula of the characters is set up like that. I don't understand it at all. So, I've grown out of that and I don't understand it, and if I were put in that position, I'd find it annoying. But where am I going with all this? Where am I going with the sexualization of anime? Let me just put it this way. One, let me summarize everything I just said in a few points, like a few bullet points. One, you have no control of the audience, okay? You have no control of who watches what, okay? You can't stop a 30-year-old from watching a kid's show any more than you can watch a little kid from watching an R-rated movie. You can't stop it. Second off, I believe there is a big problem with objectification in women, and like in correlation with the monopolized sexualization and heavily capitalized sexualization in anime. I do have a problem with that. I think it's a story. I think it's a formula that doesn't work. I think it is I think those characters are systematically stereotyped in order to garner those ratings because of how easily sex can draw in an audience. And I also think that women are very overly stereotyped and talked down to in those shows. They're terribly talked down to. It's disgusting how how much girls are like, oh my god, man. Like they're defenseless. They have no argument. They don't have anything to say most times. You're lucky to find a good show where the girls are very open and dynamic and interesting. Like FLCL is a good example of like interesting fucking characters, stuff like that. But what else is there? I guess the other point is there's a silver lining. There's a gray area to me with the age cap that they put sex in stuff in, because I think sex is important at 13, 14, 15. I just think how you direct that and how you interpret that to a 13 or 4, like to a young teenage audience is very important, because you can tell right away if they're just marketing this stuff to get young kids, you know, to buy stuff to pander to their boners, or to their libidos, or if they're just putting it in because, you know, or if they're putting in sex because, you know, kids have similar experiences. They like the girl, they want to go out with them, but they don't know if they can say anything. Like, what do you think? Like, how would you, if you were given two options to promote sex to a kid, which I think is very important to do, how would you do it? Would you either A, base the scenes on relatable experiences that kids go through during those hormonal rushes and those feelings, and just present the problem to the kid so that the kid feels they can relate to the problem and feel more connected to the problem, so that in the end, when there is an answer to be found in it, they feel more at ease and give solace to it? Or B, do you just feed off of it? Do you just give them boobs, give them panties, give them hot guys, and just let them loose? What do you do? Like, which one would you go for? Honestly, which one would you go for? And I honestly think a lot of the industry is teetering towards the latter. I don't think they're really putting it in to give any real depth to the characters. I think they're doing it because they know young, horny kids will buy it. Young, horny kids will buy it. So I think that's what kind of screws up their reputation in the industry in many ways. But I see a lot of the beauty. Once again, all those studios, Madhouse, Studio Gynax, Production IG. Those guys do really amazing stuff that doesn't fall into those conventions and those standards. Look at Hayao Miyazaki. I'll give him credit. When he made Nausicaa, women exploded with like fanaticism over this girl, because she was not like every girl that was being made at the time. She was very different, and Hayao has a problem with, and Miyazaki has a problem with anime too. He has a problem with the way it's created. He has a problem with the way the characters are developed. And he has a problem with the way the stories are told, especially to a young audience. And he wanted to break out of that mold and show, hey, you know, there are other people here who have a voice and have something to say, especially about women. He's a major feminist. He's a huge feminist to the nth degree, and he's one of the rare cases in Japan that really gets anywhere being that kind of guy. And hopefully, when it comes to sexualization in anime, hopefully it will get better. I'm seeing bits and pieces of, you know, it getting better in some ways, but I see it getting worse in others. And so maybe there will be that division or that exclusionary demographics that fall out of it. That may, I don't even know what I'm saying at that point. All I know is, you know, it's getting better in some ways, worse in others. So that is my take in its entirety on anime for this time. Woo! Check it out. An hour. Wow, I talked for a full fucking hour about anime. I've got nothing to do, huh? Nothing to do. Wow, I should be drawing or doing my homework or getting a job and having a life. But no, I spend an hour at home telling you about anime. But I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found it entertaining. And from yours truly, Aaron Schmit, this is the first audio cast of Schmibblecast. TTFN, ta-ta for now.